number 6, there are 2 questions. First question is talking about the sine of 90 minus x. This is really the same thing as saying the sine of u minus v. 90 is the u, and the unknown thing x is the v. So using that formula, I would have said that I have the sine of u cosine v off the formula sheet minus cosine u sine v. If I rewrite that using what I actually see, meaning that is that my 90 is my u and my x is my v, I would rewrite this as the sine of 90, the cosine of x, negative x, x minus cosine 90 sine x. I'm just following what the formula says. The v is actually what comes after the minus sign from the formula, right?
Uh-huh.
So that's why I'm just using x.
Booyah.
Yeah, booyah. Alright, so then I now fill in the blanks of what these things are. What's the sine of 90 degrees? Unit circle. 1, good job. And then I don't know what the cosine of x is because they didn't tell me the angle. What's the cosine of 90? 0. And I don't know the sine of x, so I just write it as sine of x. Oh, look, 0 times anything is
0.
0. And 1 times anything is
1.
no!
Cosine.
Whatever the other thing is. So the answer here is cosine x. Oh.
Sing.
Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. In the next one, they talk about the cosine of 2 angles being added together. So I see this from my formula sheet, that is, as something that says the cosine of some angle plus some other angle. Cosine of u plus v. Off my formula sheet, that means that I'm using this, the cosine of u, cosine of v, minus sine u, sine v. And again, that's because my first angle, 180, is the same as my u, and my second angle, x, is the same as my v. If I rewrite that using my angles, what I would have been saying then is I have the cosine of 180 times the cosine of x minus the sine of 180 times the sine x. The cosine of 180
Is
negative 1. The cosine of x I don't know. The sine of 180 is 0, and the sine of x I don't know. Which means that when I get done, I really have negative cosine x. That's my final answer. Problem. This is the most fun one. So there are actually 2 parts going on here. The first part is this thing right here, which is the sine of 2 angles being added. The second thing that's going on is this stuff right here, which is the sine of 2 angles being subtracted. That means I actually have 2 different formulas going on. 2 different formulas. I have the formula that says the sine of u plus v. That's the yellow highlighted one. And then I also have the sine of u minus v, and that's the green highlighted one. And you're adding those 2 things together to get a negative 1. So in the yellow highlight, I'm going to write down the formula for the sine of two things added together, but I'm actually going to use the angles. I'm not going to write down the formula again. I've done that a few times. Look on your formula sheet. So in the red, with the yellow highlight, that would turn out to be the sine of x cosine pi over 4 plus cosine x sine pi over 4. Again, that's from the yellow highlight stuff. And I'll pause after I get done writing this all down. The sine of u minus b is the sine of x cosine pi over 4 minus cosine x sine pi over 4. This is all from the green highlighted information. And of course, that's all equal to -1. And now I'll pause and you can copy that down. Okay. You can get the penny later joke.
I want to see if it's heads up.
What I want you to notice is this. What do you notice? They cancel out,
Yeah, they do.
right? They're both gone. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, alright. Yeah. So now, what about the other two things? What do you notice about those? They're also the same. So I can see that these two things are the same. That means I have 2 of the sine x cosine pi over 4s equal to -1. So all that big line just is now this. No, it doesn't. Just like you don't always come to this class second block.
Is that so? It's
Test.
Fast.
Rest.
Fast.
It rhymes with pool.
Bless.
Thank you, Gannon. God, I love that kid.
Or what?
what do you say?
Oh.
What?
MoveOn.com. That's what. Seriously.
Right.
Sex.
Cranky.
Crikey.
Right.
That's not a knife. Cosine of pi over 4. There are certain people in here are still clueless. I know.
Equals.
What I notice in this next part is that I'm multiplying by 2 and I'm also dividing by 2. So really what's going
Brush your
on
lips.
is that I have the sine of x times the square root of 2 equals -1.
Oh my Lanta, you are my woman.
Gannon, join then. Crikey! I should now divide both sides by square root of 2.
Yeah.
So now I have the sine
Right.
of x equals -1 over the square root of 2. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Wait, hold on. Don't tell us the answer yet.
You can't have square root of 2 on the bottom. So I'm going to rewrite it by rationalizing the denominator, which means I really now have the sine of x equals -√2 over 2. Those are pi over 4 kinds of angles. Where are the sine? What quadrants are the sine? Is the sine negative?
3 and 4.
3 and 4. So I know I'm looking for the pi over 4s
Right.
in quadrant 3 and quadrant 4, which for us is going to be
5 pi over
5 pi over 4
7 pi.
and 7 pi over 4. And those are my final answers to
Right.
this question. Yeah!